Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Chloe. I have words to tell you. It might be really echoey in here. Sorry in advance if this sounds like actual trash. I am obviously in the middle of my hostel, which works because we're talking all about hostels today. To be more specific, how I choose mine. Because there's quite a few factors that go into choosing a hostel. So let's talk about them. I would definitely say like the first and foremost thing is to figure out the purpose of your stay. So by that I mean whether you want more of like the party vibe hostel or if you just want like a good chill place to sleep. Makes a big difference. You probably don't want to stay at a party hostel if you're not looking to be bothered in the middle of the night. I have stayed at some hostels where people are annoying. I would say that looking at reviews is probably your best way to kind of figure out the vibe of the hostel you're staying at. Certain hostels are definitely known for being more of a party vibe, and certain hostels are definitely more known for not. That, I would honestly say, is probably the biggest one because that is going to absolutely make or break your experience. If you're trying to wake up early to like go to some tour or something and you're staying at a party hostel where people are coming in and out all night, you might not have as good of a time. The rest of these are kind of going to be dependent on the first question of like what your vibe is for your trip or that city or whatever. Then depending on the kind of trip I'm taking, I do look for like specific amenities within a hostel. For right now, for example, I very specifically only looked at hostels that have elevators because I have a large suitcase that I cannot carry up multiple flights of stairs if I needed to. But the times that I have traveled with just my backpack, I have been more than happy to stay at some place that does not have an elevator. I will say, if you're traveling in Europe, you're probably not going to find that many hostels with an elevator. I mean, in this day and age, hostels have been updated and they're a lot better than they used to be back when our parents would travel. So there's a lot more elevators in Europe, but they're still not everywhere. So then not only am I like looking for one with an elevator, but I am looking for hostels that are a bit bigger and have some more space. So that way I know I will get some decent space in my room and not just be absolutely crammed together. I also very specifically look for that because I'm staying in hostels for longer periods of time. But if I'm staying somewhere for like a night, 2 nights, I don't really care if I'm that crammed in a room. I do specifically look for hostels that have smaller rooms as well. Sometimes some hostels will only offer those really big rooms that have like 16 to 30 some beds in there, and that's too much for me. Not my vibe, no thank you. I am about those 4 to 6 dorms max. You're way less likely to get snorers in your room that way. Another thing I really like to look for, it's been kind of a newer thing for me, is specifically looking for ones with kitchen. I'm here for a very long time, and I cannot afford to go out to eat all the time. And honestly, even if you weren't here for a really long time, you can't always afford to go out to eat every single time you want to eat. It's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. I've stayed in hostels before where they like have a cafe downstairs, but you're not allowed to bring any of your own food in, and they have no kitchen or nothing. And then you're stuck ordering from their cafe every single time you even want so much as a simple meal. That can be pretty annoying. Pretty annoying. So if you're looking to spend the least amount of money as possible, already staying at a hostel is of course the best idea. But then on top of that, if you get to stay in one that has a kitchen, you can save so much more money that way. Of course, security and location are very high up on this list as well. I put those hand in hand because I do feel like the location kind of depends on how comfortable I feel as a woman alone walking around. So I always make sure to check the surrounding area before I book to kind of see if it looks maybe a little bit sketch, maybe a little bit not, just to get a better idea of the vibe, you know? And then of course it kind of goes along with it, but the security of like the front door is a big one, for example. Like, is it locked all of the time? Is it locked only at night? Do you need a key card to get in? Can just anyone get in? That also just goes for security inside the hostel as well. Like, how easy is it for you to get in your room? I've stayed at hostels before where you literally need your room key card to pass through every single door, and they put a lot of doors in there on purpose. Sometimes in hostels you need the key card for the elevator and stuff. We love that. We love that because I know that if I need the key card for the elevator, some other motherfucker who doesn't live here can't get in, can't follow me. I'm not trying to be followed. So like maybe the checking the key card through every single door is annoying to you. It was annoying to me. But maybe that's very specifically why you would choose that place, because you feel that much more safe and that much more comfortable there. Again, as a woman alone, priorities. It's something to think about. Because of course, if you're not feeling safe someplace, like how are you gonna sleep at night? You're not. So seeing what their security measures are is definitely a must. Next, I would probably look at the common spaces or the kind of events that hostels host. Of course, half the reason I'm staying at a hostel is to meet other solo travelers and have people to hang out and do stuff with. And so if I'm staying at a place that doesn't have a good common area or doesn't have any events for travelers to be able to meet each other, it's probably gonna be a little bit more of a closed off hostel. And if my point is to meet people, I might not have as great of a time. I mean, of course, if you're traveling with someone and it like doesn't actually matter, I would say that most hostels host some sort of events for people, whether that just be like a solo traveler happy hour or a walking tour or a game night or whatever. But if you're traveling alone to meet people, you're obviously gonna wanna stay someplace that would make that easier for you. There are other great ways to meet people in hostels as well, like hostel world group chats and things along those lines. But if you're not booking through a third party like that, I would definitely be looking into the common spaces and the events that they host. Reviews. Reviews are your best friend. Absolute best friend. To be honest, I kind of feel like there's going to be a bad review for every single place. Not everyone is going to have a perfect experience in every hostel, but we also definitely know that there are wacky people that write bad reviews just because they're salty. Ew, salty? Salty? That was so 2016 of me. Of course, every place is going to have like a bad review here and there. Take that with a grain of salt. What the review says, of course, is important. If you see more than one with bed bugs, probably run. I don't know, that's kind of all I have to say about reviews. I mean, they're hugely important. They will give you so much information. And of course, if you have the time to like really look into reviews, the more reviews you read, the more info you'll have on the place. Price. The price is obviously so important. I mean, to be honest, it's definitely probably the number one thing I look at with taking everything else into consideration. Just kidding, that's such a lie. The price is obviously such a big thing to take into consideration. Usually, I find one that ticks all of my boxes, and then from there, I go to the cheapest price. Obviously, girls balling on a budget. That was also so 2016 of me. What is... Of course, not every hostel is going to tick all of your boxes. Sometimes you gotta be a little bit farther out of the city so you can get the other amenities that you want. But maybe what matters to you is being the absolute closest to the city, therefore you would give up something else. Not every hostel is going to be absolutely perfect. I think there are pros and cons to every single one. But as long as you can tick most of your boxes, you should be able to have a great time. And really for most people, like, hostel is not the same as a hotel. You're not exactly going to spend all day in the room. You're going to get a clean, cheap bed so you can spend more money on traveling. Yeah, I think that's basically all I got. I haven't stayed in the most hostels in the world, so, but I've stayed in enough. How many hostels have I stayed in? I mean, how many was that? 14 or 9? 14. Privacy, just forget about privacy. It's non-existent. I'm kidding. Sometimes there's ones with like curtains. I love those. Corporate hostels, not corporate hostels, that's like a touchy subject. Certain people specifically don't like corporate hostels. Some people specifically do like corporate hostels because they kind of have a way of doing things. I like corporate hostels because I know the vibe I'm gonna get, but some people don't because they feel like it's not as authentic of an experience. To each their own. Next. What's next? I've not got much more. Yeah, I think that's kind of it. I would not put too much stress on finding a perfect hostel because at the end of the day, it is just a clean, cheap place to stay at night. Although I hope this does help you be able to narrow down your search and maybe make it just a wee bit easier. So that's kind of all I got for you today. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And do make sure to subscribe down below if you have not already. And if you like this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up because it does really help me out. I'll see you guys in the next one.